welcome to Back to the Box Office. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about The Secret Life of Pets 2, and interestingly enough, Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me, which came out the same week in roughly 1999. This is Marcus, and today I'm joined again by Dustin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Dustin, if you wouldn't mind maybe going over the numbers a little bit, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, you got it. So, Secret Life of Pets 2 opened this past weekend, opened June 7th. It made $46 million this opening weekend. Debuted on about 4,500 screens. Had an average of $10,229 per theater. And overall made $108 million worldwide for this first weekend. And Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me, opened June 11th with $55 million. It debuted on 3,212 screens. It had an average of $16,581 a theater. And worldwide, it had about $80 million for that first weekend.
Perfect. So, one of the first things I thought about, so I was looking it up for us, do the comparison for this episode. It was just crazy to kind of remember that Austin Powers came out 20 years ago. And again, other people have already kind of talked a little bit about, the whole, 1999, what great year it was for the box office. Literally, for the box office to come off of Stars Episode 1 to Austin Powers 2, heck of it seemed, at least to me, maybe it's just because we're in the right age group, but it just seems like 99 produces a number of just very memorable films. We've already talked about The Matrix, Fight Club came out this year, The Sixth Sense. There was just a lot of really iconic numbers, but I guess for yourself, Dustin, what's something that jumps out to you for the numbers of Austin Powers 2 compared to Pets 2?
I guess the worldwide would be the first thing that jumps out at me. I think now it's become more of a priority for these studios to really push the overseas and worldwide markets, like the foreign markets. And so when you hear that a movie as big as something like Avengers Endgame, where you're getting $2 billion, where 70 to 80% of it or even more is coming from the worldwide market, I think it kind of shows you kind of how priorities have changed and how these studios are pushing movies around the world, not just at the domestic box office. So when I look at Austin Powers, it made 25 million or so worldwide that weekend, and it just seems crazy to look at that. Is there anything that jumped out at you?
I guess one thing for myself that jumps out for Secret Life of Pets 2 is that it performed quite a bit worse than the Secret Life of Pets 1. So I'm just looking up right now on Box Office Mojo. So Secret Life of Pets 1 opened at $104 million domestic, and Secret Life of Pets 1, it made $875 million that year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very big success, and this lifetime gross in the US was $368 million. So if you look back at Secret Life of Pets 2, as of right now on Wednesday, its worldwide gross is $108 million. To me, there's really virtually little chance that that it'll make anywhere near as much money as Secret Life of Pets 1. Because Secret Life of Pets 2 opened at less than half of what the first one made. It made almost $60 million less. I guess a couple of my analysis would be, I wonder if, first off, if Illumination, I wonder if it's losing a little bit of steam. Because I know The Grinch, it didn't perform badly per se. But at least their version of The Grinch is what I'm talking about. But it also didn't really do that great either. So it kind of really makes me wonder if Illumination is they're a little bit of a rough patch in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, because obviously the Minions do very well for them, and Despicable Me and all that related stuff. But with Secret Life of Pets 2 and Grinch now, I just kind of wonder if they are losing a little bit of steam. So that would be my first thought. And the second one is, definitely in 1999, films typically weren't really thinking about, or at least typically, they weren't really making a ton of money overseas. You would get films that would make a lot, like we talked about last week with Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, but that did really well overseas. And, Titanic did an incredibly high number overseas. But largely, at least a lot of films in the 90s, they would have a larger percentage of their split would be in the U.S. typically. But, I think it's crazy, too. Just to think about it, a summer box office release, Austin Powers 2, making more money than Pets 2 in raw dollars. We're not even talking about adjusting for inflation. Literally, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, made more money than Pets 2. I kind of feel like for this whole year, there's definitely a trend of this year, just the box office not really doing that well. If you were to take out the two Marvel films, you took out, or at least MCU films, if you took out Captain Marvel and Endgame, this would actually be a very lackluster year at the box office.
Oh, people would be losing their minds.
Oh, yeah. It would be really... those two films put together made worldwide almost $4 billion. Because I think right now Endgame is at like 2,740,000,000, something like that.
It's like 50 million away from Avatar or something.
It's close, so it's over 2.7 billion, and I think Captain Marvel last time I looked was like 1.1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So they're almost $4 billion put together. But if you took that away, you took those two films away, this year has had a lot of films that I think really underperformed. I mean, Godzilla 2 or whatever, Godzilla Fate of the Monsters underperformed. Detective Pikachu underperformed. I think Men in Black 4 or whatever they're calling it, the International Men in Black, whatever it's called, international. It doesn't seem like it's very tracking on a high amount. So I think that, at least last time I looked, I think it was only tracking for like a $40 million weekend. So the box office, yeah, and even Aladdin, for example. I mean, Aladdin, I think, is done like okay for itself. But if you're Disney, I'm sure Disney's thoughts of Aladdin were that the film was going to get probably nearly $1 billion. At least they're probably thinking 800 million plus. I'm sure, like, internally they wanted that because the film had a pretty big budget. They spent a lot of money on marketing. I mean, they didn't want it to only make $500 to $600 million.
Right? Yeah, they had more riding on it.
Yeah, they wanted more than that. So even Disney isn't necessarily armored away from this or whatever, protected from it. But yeah, I mean, I guess that would be my first analysis. And then I also think if you are I don't know who's a big fan of The Secret Life of Pets 2. I mean, I don't know if there are mega fans or whatever, super fans, but I guess I just don't really know about like the future of the franchise a little bit. I mean, it sounds weird to talk about this for a kid's film, but in all honesty, if the film's only at $108 million now, there's a very real possibility that worldwide it'll probably make less than $400 million.
Yeah, I don't know. Kids movies are tough. You get a lot of legs with the kids movies. They stay in theaters a long time, and they kind of.
Well, the problem though, The Secret Life of Pets 2 has coming out though, is that Toy Story 4 comes out. In 9 days, right? So like once Toy Story 4 comes out, because last time I heard about that, it was tracking to do over 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to wonder if like Toy Story 4 is kind of like gonna suck all that air out of all the kids films, or that will be the big kids film. So yeah, I mean, so Secret Life of Pets 2, yeah, so it's made $108 million, and then it has a 54-45 split. Where, there's obviously percentage points, but so it's made 54.8% of its gross domestically. And Secret Life of Pets 1, the split was 57.9% foreign. I mean, I guess we could take a look at the budget too. So the budget was $80 million. I mean, I guess if it ends up making $400 million, they might be able to justify doing another film. But in my opinion, I think I wouldn't be shocked if Secret Life of Pets moved in a direction of shorts. And we'll talk about it later when we talk about the film, because Secret Life of Pets 2, I mean, I never saw the first one, but after watching the second one, after watching it last night, the movie it kind of just seems like a collection of short stories just put together. Like, I mean, there is some crossover of the plots, but really, in all honesty, The Secret Life of Pets 2, I thought really had like 3 separate plots that were happening, and they all kind of converge at the end, but it didn't really feel like a movie to me. I kind of felt like I was watching like a TV show or something, and there was just 3 plots going. You had an A, B, and a C plot, but they all were getting like roughly the same amount of like screen time. Mm-hmm. So that's not very indicative of your typical movie that comes out. Typically movies you just have your A plot and small B plot. But what do you think? I mean, would you be shocked if the film went in that direction? Secret Life of Pets 2, if they just made it, or not Secret Life of Pets 2, if they, after Secret Life of Pets 2 came out, would you be shocked if they just moved in the direction of like whatever, straight to Netflix?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix, or like even how Nickelodeon would buy old movies and turn them into TV shows. I could see something like that happening where they get either with a network, but that seems unlikely just because it's Illumination's its own studio. I could see them making a deal with a Netflix or a streamer, especially since that seems to be where more and more things are going.
I could see that. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Comcast, Universal, NBC, I believe that they're creating a streaming service. I mean, I might be mistaken, but I think that that's like a thing that's going to happen. So.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody literally is. Warner Bros. is forming their own too. But so I guess we talked a little bit about the numbers. We can just dive into a little bit of our analysis of the film. So we've kind of talked a little bit about Secret Life of Pets 2. So we can probably jump into a little bit of Austin Powers too. But What were your opinions about Austin Powers 2, especially when you watched it when it first came out, let's say, or whatever, the first time you watched it?
I was late to the Austin Powers party.
Really?
For whatever reason, I missed it when it first came out. I didn't see the second one when that first came out. It was when I was in school. It came out and everybody was talking about it, and I kept hearing how funny it was and how good it was. But I don't know if it was just no interest or I just never saw it. But the first Austin Powers movie I saw was the third one.
Okay.
And I saw it in theaters, and everyone was losing their minds, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. Like, this isn't bad. Like, some of the jokes I didn't get because I hadn't seen the other ones. So then going back and watching Austin Powers 2 again, it's still just really funny. But I don't know how kind history will be to it in terms of like rewatching it nowadays. Like, a lot of movies lose their luster. They kind of seem just pulled out of another time period.
Well, especially too, like, I mentioned this in an episode with Danny before that in the late 90s, it seemed like there was kind of a trend where certain films had like the look of how movies do today, where they feel more modern. Like, for example, like, I think a lot of, oh my gosh, the guy that did, I did The Game and Gone Girl.
Oh, David Fincher?
Yeah, David Fincher. I was going to call him David Lynch, but I know that's somebody else. If you look at a lot of David Fincher films from the 90s, I feel like those movies look very contemporary. Like, the way that they're shot is what I mean.
Definitely, yeah.
Like, you look at a film like Fight Club or The Game or Seven, which all came out in the 90s. I feel like you might be mistaken. Like, if, let's say 10 years from now, you showed somebody the movie The Game, right? Like, they might think that movie came out in the mid-2000s or maybe even, like, 2008, just because of the way that it's filmed. Austin Powers is not one of those movies. Austin Powers 2, even though I actually totally love it. When I was a kid, I was a fan of it at the time when it was out. And I thought it was really good. Like, I never thought it was one of those movies where I just laughed out loud, thinking, like, oh my gosh, this movie's hilarious. Like, I never really thought that, but I absolutely loved it a lot. Like, it's really... it probably is my favorite... comedy franchise, I guess, if there's such a thing like that. But yeah, the movie though, like, if I don't know, let's say you're 30 years old now, right, and you have a kid that's 3 years old, like, if you're gonna show him Austin Powers, let's say 5 years from now or whatever, 7 years from now, your kid might not like it as much as you did, because it definitely looks like an older movie, like the way that it's shot, like, and just like, yeah, it just looks like, and I don't, I think now today, people, if they shot like that, they'd probably make it like in an ironic way, almost like the Tim and Eric show. But yeah, that's kind of how films looked a little bit in the 90s. So yeah, I think besides that though, it's probably an all-time great. I think that, in my opinion, I feel like in the first Austin Powers, it was kind of like too much of a parody of 007. Like, everything about it was for a parody of 007.
Right.
And kind of in the same way that Young Frankenstein is, even though Young Frankenstein and Austin Powers 1, even though they're both very good movies, they very much feel like parodies of those like movies that they're parodying, almost to the extent that, like, if you watch Young Frankenstein and you weren't told that it was a comedy for the first time, you might actually think it really is a Frankenstein movie. Like, you might think, oh, those are some weird parts, but, like, if you go back and watch some of those old Frankenstein movies, they always have weird stuff happening. Like, Frankenstein's getting frozen, Frankenstein's brain's being transferred to somebody else's body, someone else's brain's being transferred into his body after he's already Frankenstein and he's alive. So, like, there's always weird stuff happening. And I feel like with Austin Powers, again, the first one, if you weren't told that it's a comedy and you watch it for the first time now, a guy in your 20s or whatever, you might, like, actually think it's a semi-serious spy movie.
Yeah, that's...
So, I just feel like the first one really kind of felt like it played less up for laughs. Whereas the second one, I feel like it kind of really got into its stride when it's adding all these weird things. So the second one, you add in Mini-Me. You add in, like, the Fat Bastard. Like, you add in... Just even, like, Dr. Evil kind of becomes more comedic.
Gets a little more, yeah.
And, yeah, even, like, Will Ferrell's, like, little portion in Austin Powers 2, like, I even feel like that was funnier this time around, because by the time the sequel had come around, he'd already done some more things, so it's kind of becoming a little bit more famous.
Yeah, he's a little more...
So, yeah, I really... there's... I remember... obviously I watched the film recently, but, like, I like the scene where Mini-Me goes inside of Austin Powers' spacesuit, and he kind of has to, like, poop him out and poop him into space.
Yeah.
That looks so, like... I mean, it's so dumb and cheesy looking, but like it's also hilarious.
Right. I'm sure part of that too is they wanted it to be as campy as they could, which probably lends into the style of it as well, and like the overall look. But
no, I mean, I really think. I mean, I clearly remember. I think for some reason I can remember watching the first one in theaters more, even though I was like a pretty young kid. I think when the first one came out, I was like 6 or something. For some reason, I can't remember watching the second one in theaters, but I know that I did. But I totally remember watching the third one in theaters. Like I remember watching it. I was like, wow. Like even though the third one I think is worse than the second one, like I still, I totally remember it. And you know, I don't know how I feel now. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talks about crediting Austin Powers 4. I really don't know about that coming out now. There's a little portion of me that thinks that it probably, if it was going to come out, it should have come out like the end of the 2000s. Because now, if Austin Powers 4 went into production today, the film probably wouldn't be out till like 2022, maybe even 2023. I mean, like right now, I haven't heard anything about a script or anything like that. So let's just say, for sake of argument, all this stuff's been happening behind the scenes. If Austin Powers 4 came out in 2022, I mean, we're almost talking like 20 years after the third one. I don't know. I kind of feel like some of the magic's kind of gone.
It'd be,
like, I'd almost prefer... I mean, I would hate to see if they made an Austin Powers 4. And I'd hate for it to be received the same way like Dumb and Dumber 2 was.
Or Zoolander 2.
Yeah, I mean, Dumb and Dumber 2 was just like a total abomination. Even though technically I think it's the third film in that franchise because they did a prequel.
I don't know if they count that, but...
Yeah, but whatever. The Dumb and Dumber number 2, the one that came out, I think 2015.
The cinematic universe. Yeah, the Dumb and Dumber cinematic universe.
I mean, that movie was just really bad. And Zoolander 2... like you mentioned, I thought that was considerably worse than Zoolander 1. So, I would just say they might as well just leave it alone at this point.
I think it's almost just too much time.
Yeah, and you know, for Secret Life of Pets 2, you know, like I said, I watched it last night. Like, I watched it even kind of later at night. So, I'm not even a full 24 hours removed for the film. And I've forgotten so much of it. Like, it was just, like, a very... boring movie. Like I said, so I mean, basically, I mean, I guess this is some spoilers if you even, I mean, whoever's listening, I don't even know if you would care about this, but like, basically, Secret Life of Pets 2 revolves around like 3 main plots. There's the one plot of the main dog being played by Patton Oswalt now. Him and his family and his big brown bear dog. He kind of looks like a big bear, but he's a dog. That friend of his, they all go on a camping trip. So that's kind of like one plot is that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dog that's played by Patton Oswalt, who I guess is the main character of this film. I don't even remember his name, like, for goodness sakes. But, like, he, like, his whole plot is that he's very erotic. Or not erotic. Not erotic. He's very, like... protective and neurotic. Yeah, not neurotic. Gosh, I can't even say the word. He's very protective and very, like, weird about protecting this little baby that's his owner's kid. And, like, to the point where it's kind of, like, stressing him out in his life. So, like, that's, like, one plot. And then another plot is the glamorous white dog from the last one. Kind of, like, very preppy, very kind of rich girl kind of vibe or whatever she is. Her plot is that she wants to retrieve a toy from, like, this house that has gone into, like, full of, like, cats and a cat lady. So she has to, like, go to the house, pretend to be a cat, or so I guess that's more of an apartment, but she has to, like, that's kind of her plot, is retrieving this
getting
ball.
the toy back, yeah.
And then the third main plot is the one with Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish, where basically this bunny is working with Tiffany Haddish, who's a little puppy dog, or whatever, dog, and they're trying to rescue a lion or a white tiger or something. And like the way that they cut between them, like I was saying earlier, like it really does feel like shorts, because even though the 3 plots do have some threads that do semi-connect them, and at the end they kind of bring it together like they tie a big ribbon on it. It's like, oh yeah, look at these things are all connected. When I was watching, I was like, wow, there does not seem to be a lot of continuity here of plot. Like, it just literally felt like 3 shorts. Like, you could have made a short. I think the Kevin Hart's character is like Captain Rabbit or something. Whatever his name was, Captain Rabbit. Whatever the heck his character's name was. You could have made like a short 15-minute whatever vignette or whatever of him and Tiffany Haddish just saving that tiger. Like, that could have been straight up it, because they're literally, when they're cutting back and forth, I mean, there's like a scene where when they're breaking out the white tiger from this circus or whatever. It's like a Russian run circus. So the Russian guy has black Russian wolves that are beginning to, like, they're trying to find the tiger once it's been broken out. Like, you'll see that part, and then it cuts to the farm with the main family or whatever, and Patton Oswalt is getting a life lesson from Harrison Ford, the dog he's playing. And, like, they're absolutely not connected at all. Like, you see that multiple times where it's like the prissy kind of rich dog or whatever, you know, she's doing this to get the ball back. And then it cuts to the Captain Rabbit doing whatever to get the white tiger. And then it cuts to, like, Patton Oswalt's dog learning or whatever, helping out. Rooster is the name of Harrison Ford's dog's name. And, like, it does feel like a bunch of shorts just slapped together. It did not feel like one cohesive movie. It just kind of felt like, here you go. Here's just a bunch of stuff on the screen.
Here's a bunch of stuff to keep the kids entertained for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, this might maybe sound more like an indictment on Illumination, but like, I really like Despicable Me 2 a lot. I kind of thought the first one was okay, and I thought The Grinch was okay. But a lot of their other films that I've seen, I have not loved. Like, I watched maybe like 3/4 of Despicable Me 3, or half of it maybe. I thought that sucked. And, you know, I know I'm not the target demographic for them. You know, their target demographic are kids or whatever. So, I mean, I understand that, like, you know, that's who they're catering for, and they're not catering for grown adult men. But, like, I mean, I can like animation films and enjoy them and kind of tell, I think, the difference between, like, garbage to something good. And, yeah, I look at, like, Despicable Me 3, like I said, like, Minions. Like, we did an episode of The Unwatchables about that, like, a little while ago, and I thought Minions was just horrible. Like, it truly was bad. Pets 2 was... I mean, I hesitate to even call it bad because it was just so absolutely forgettable. Like, it was almost like nothing. Like, it was almost like just eating tofu without any kind of sauce or not mixed with anything. It was just literally like, it was just like, oh, here's a movie. I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, this might sound like a hot take a little bit, but like, I think I actually like Dark Phoenix more because I watched both movies this past weekend. And, like, Dark Phoenix, I kind of feel like, in all honesty, kind of didn't really... I think it's getting dumped on or crapped on more than it really deserves. Like, I'm not saying Dark Phoenix was a good movie, but, like, it was not as bad as reviewers have made it out to be, I think. And in all honesty, I remember a lot more than Pets 2. Like, I think that there's parts about Dark Phoenix that I'm going to remember, like, 4 years from now. Whereas I think with Pets 2, I'm literally not going to remember... I might forget every single thing about Pets 2. There's a real possibility that, like, 6 months from now, I'm going to virtually remember nothing from that movie. So that was a lot of talking. But, I mean, Dustin, what were your just overall impressions of, like, Pets 2 from, like... I mean, what would you say? I mean, do you remember much of it or what?
I mean, not a whole lot. I think a lot of it, you know, you just want that quick accessibility, so you are catering to that target audience of kids, and I think that's probably why there's so many jumping back and forth. And I'm sure that, like, when this comes out on Blu-ray or demand or anything, it'll have a bunch of shorts added to it with some of the characters, like, because I know they did that with the Grinch and they did it with the Minions movie. Like, there's like new Minions shorts on every Despicable Me Blu-ray that comes out. But yeah, with this, it's just, you know, it's more of the same, really. Like, a lot of the things I heard about the first Secret Life of Pets were that people wanted to see more of just the pets being funny at home. Like, they're like, I didn't expect this whole story and everything that took place to happen. And I think with this, they tried to do more like, okay, well, people really liked the shenanigans at home, so let's just take that to another level. But it would be better if they just leaned into it one way or the other. Like, either we're going full narrative, or here's a whole series of shorts like that Simpsons episode that did the 33 Springfield stories, where it was just like a minute devoted to every character.
I mean, I think for the people that are, you know, advocating for this idea of, like, just more pets doing stuff at home, the problem with movies is, like, they're telling a story.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it that, like, a lot of times, too, people remember things from a movie where they remember a really funny part or they remember a very profound line of a movie. And there's no fault with that at all. But at the end of the day, movies do have to have plot and they have to have conflict. And a film in which revolves around, a big fat cat acting mean or acting like a cat, quote unquote, and, a neurotic dog dad acting weird and the prissy. I mean, when you have that, like, and there's nothing happening, there's not a movie.
No, it's
You're just seeing stuff happening. And, honestly, when I was watching Secret Life of Pets 2, honestly, several times I thought of the film Oliver and Company, and I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. The Disney one, the animated one from whatever, late 80s.
Right, I think.
Whenever it came out, early 90s, whatever in that time era. And, and I don't know if that movie was good. I haven't watched it since, I was probably like 12 or 10 or something like that. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I do remember liking that a lot. And I remember that it looked kind of darker. It looked kind of like gritty, and it was like dirty New York, I think, right? And I think their owner was like a homeless man. Like, it kind of had a weird grittiness to it. And I just really liked the movie a lot. And I can't remember exactly what the plot of Oliver and Company was now, but like there was an overarching theme that was happening. And when I was a kid, I just remember thinking like, oh, Oliver and Company, like, I like this. Like, to me, that felt like something. I mean, Secret Life of Pets 2, I don't know, it just, maybe the box office reflects that people don't really care, and the Illumination didn't care, and the audience didn't care. I don't know, but I will say one more thing, though, that, like, I think that if you're a big fan of Mario, like Super Mario Bros., like, I don't know if Illumination's last several movies instill confidence in you for them making a Mario movie. They're supposed to make one. I forgot. I don't know if it's coming out next year or 2021, but they're working on a Mario movie, and I don't know. I don't personally have a lot of confidence that... I don't even know what the Mario movie is going to be honest with you. I don't know if they're going to go for an action-adventure CG film, or they're going to go for comedy, because I really hope that they don't go for comedy for Mario, because I think that Illumination-style comedy mixed with Mario is just not going to blend well. I really think it's going to be bad, or at least very mediocre, so...
It would probably be not too good, not too bad. It would just be, like you said about this, it would just be just a movie. You're just watching. Yeah.
I mean, if you can call it a movie, I mean, it's almost. I mean, it's so weird. Like, comparing and contrasting this to the last episode of Back to the Box Office with Godzilla, Fate of the Two Monsters, or Fate of the Monsters. Like, that movie, although very boring as well, there was at least a lot of stuff theoretically happening. Like, the monster apocalypse is happening. There's a family drama happening. There's Ken Watanabe being a master, mentor, kind of dying. Like, there's like a lot of stuff happening. I feel like if only this could mix with Godzilla in regards to like stakes. Like, if Godzilla, so instead of causing like end of the world, like everyone's gonna die, like if you could take a little bit of that drama and just kind of take a little bit of it from Secret Life of Pets 2
and just put it in this kid's movie.
Yeah, but just to make it have like a little bit of stakes, like just like even like a tad where a story's happening, And again, I don't know what they could have really done to make this movie a great movie. But yeah, I don't know. It's very aggressively boring and just very bland. But, well, I guess that about does it for this episode. Dustin, thank you for being on again.
Thank you for having me.
So definitely, guys, make sure you check out the rest of our content. We have some cool interviews coming up, and we got some great stuff by Dom and Koi on the Poke Podcast. So make sure you guys check that out, and thank you again for listening.